All praises. Well, first and foremost, we're going to start off by giving all praises and all glory and all honor to the God of Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
Through his only begotten son, Jesus the Christ.
Right.
Secondly, we're going to give double honors to our elders. Those that rule well and are counted worthy of double honors,
Facts.
They get their double honors. Thirdly, I want to say to all of my brothers, all of my sisters out there, Shabbat Shalom, Happy Sabbath, greetings. My name is Priest Lithiel Ben Israel.
And my name is Priest Ron Ben Israel.
And we, as you know, we are with the Holy Nation of Israel, the Straight Gate of Israel. And we're back again with another class, another topic, another lesson. But before we proceed, I want everybody out there, get your Bibles with the Apocrypha included and read along with us if you can. Also, get your notebooks, get your pens, get your paper, get your pencils, and take notes if it is in your spirit. Lord's willing, this will be an edifying lesson that I am going to entitle A Brief History of the Kings, Part 1. And we're going to open up in Romans 15:4.
Book of Romans chapter 15, verse 4. Read, for whatsoever things were written aforetime.
Whatsoever things were written aforetime. The things that were written aforetime, the histories. The histories that you find written in the Bible. These are the things that were written aforetime. Read it again.
For whatsoever things were written aforetime.
Read.
Were written for our learning.
These things were written for our learning, for our education, our edification. When you're reading through the histories of the Bible, you should be learning something. There's something there for you to learn. Real talk. Keep reading.
That we, through patience and comfort of the scriptures, might have hope.
Now, in this class, we're going to talk about some history. Some things written aforetime concerning the kings. The kings over Israel, Judah and Israel. You got something, bro?
Yeah, let me get something real quick. Hey, about these things I written, you know what? You know what these things do to you? Things that we about to find out, things we about to go over. Check this out. Hey, get St. John 13:17.
Book of St. John chapter 13 and verse 17.
Hey, remember, these things written was written for our learning. So learn these things. Check out what these things that we're learning, what they would do for a man and for a woman. Bring this out.
St. John chapter 13, verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
If you know these things.
If you know these things that we're talking about, what priest about to go over, these things that are written. You know, the things that are written aforetime. Mm-hmm. Keep reading.
These histories.
These histories. Keep reading.
Happy are ye if ye do them.
What the Bible say?
Happy are ye if ye do them.
So as we go over this history, as priests go over the histories of the kings, you're going to find out some of the things that the kings were doing. And these things that the kings were doing, read that last part again.
Happy are ye if ye do them.
And hopefully you have an ear to hear for these kings, for the things that they were doing. And hopefully they inspire you to do those things as well.
Yep, because some of these kings, you're going to see in their actions things that you yourself should be doing. But you're also going to see in their actions things that you yourself should not be doing.
Yes, things you should avoid. Things you should avoid.
Hey, give me the book of Sirach, chapter 49 and 4. Sirach 49 and 4.
The book of Sirach, chapter 49, verse 4.
Uh-huh.
All except David and Ezekias and Josias were defective.
All the kings outside of David, Ezekias, which is Hezekiah, and Josias, which is Josiah, all of the kings outside of those three, they were all defective. What made them defective? Read the next verse. Read the next part.
For they forsook the law of the Most High.
That's what made them defective. They were defective because they forsook the law of the Most High God. Read.
Even the kings of Judah fell.
And it wasn't just the kings over Israel, the northern kingdom that fell, but even the kings of Judah fell, Joe. Keep reading.
Therefore, he gave their power unto others.
Therefore, the Lord gave their power over to others, other nations, other peoples. Read.
And their glory to a strange nation.
And he gave their glory to a strange nation. The strange nation here is Babylon. Ancient Babylon. Read the next verse.
They burnt the chosen city of the sanctuary.
They burnt the chosen city of the sanctuary. This is how you know that strange nation is Babylon. Babylon is the one who burned the chosen city of the sanctuary. Jerusalem. Keep going.
And made the streets desolate.
Uh-huh.
According to the prophecy of Jeremiah.
According to the prophecy of Jeremiah. Jeremiah is Jeremiah. So all of the kings outside of three, David, Hezekiah, Josiah, all of the kings outside of three, they were all defective. And we're going to talk about all of these kings, including the defective ones, yo. Real talk. Including the defective ones. Now, before we continue, who was the first king over Israel? Let me direct your attention to the screen. Let's go over here. Who was the first king over Israel? This right here is from Britannica. Britannica. Let me know when we're straight. We good? All right. Read this.
History and society. Saul, king of Israel.
Saul, king of Israel. Go over.
Saul, Hebrew. Shaul. Flourished 11th century BCE.
Read.
Israel. First king of Israel.
He was the first king over Israel. So Saul, also known as Shaul, he is universally recognized as the first king over Israel, or the first king of Israel. Now, we can stop right there. Now, in the scriptures, there was a man who was called king in Israel even before Shaul, even before Saul. Who was that man? Moses. That man was Moses. Give me Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 4. Let's get that real quick. Deuteronomy 33 and 4.
Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 4.
Read.
Moses commanded us a law.
Moses commanded us, the Israelites, a law. That law is the law of God. Keep going.
Even the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob.
And that law is the inheritance of the 12 tribes of Israel, which is the congregations of Jacob. Read.
And he was king.
And he was what?
And he was king.
And he was king. Moses was king. Read.
In Jeshurun.
In Jeshurun. Finish the verse.
When the heads of the people and the tribes of Israel were gathered together.
So Moses was king. He was king in Jeshurun. And Jeshurun is just another name for Israel.
Yep.
Just another name for Israel. But just to show you that real quick, give me Isaiah chapter 44, 1 and 2. Let me get those two verses real quick.
The book of Isaiah chapter 44 and verse 1.
Read.
Yet now hear, O Jacob, my servant.
Hear, O Jacob, my servant. Read.
And Israel.
And who?
And Israel.
Uh-huh.
Whom I have chosen.
And Israel, whom I have chosen. The chosen of God, Israel. Keep going.
Thus saith the Lord that made thee.
Uh-huh.
And formed thee from the womb.
Read.
Which will help thee. Fear not, O Jacob, my servant.
Fear not, O Jacob, my servant. Read.
And thou, Jeshurun.
And thou who?
Jeshurun.
Read.
Whom I have chosen.
And thou, Jeshurun, whom I have chosen. Yo, what is Jeshurun, the chosen of God, being called in verse 1? Israel. Israel. In verse 2, Israel, the chosen of God, is being called what? Jeshurun. Jeshurun is just another name for the chosen of God, which is Israel, man. And Moses was king in Jeshurun. That's what the Bible says. Now, why is Saul universally recognized as the first king and not Moses? Well, it's because Saul was the king of Israel when they were in the promised land. When they were in the promised land, not Moses. Moses was king in Jeshurun in Israel while they were in the wilderness show. While they were in the wilderness. Remember, Moses never even made it to the promised land. He didn't get to enter into the promised land.
Nope.
He got to see it, but he himself did not get to enter into it.
Yeah,
give me that real quick.
120.
Yep, give me that real quick. Deuteronomy 32.
Oh, you want that one?
Yep, Deuteronomy 32 and 48. Start there.
Deuteronomy chapter 32, verse 48. And the Lord spake unto Moses that selfsame day, saying,
Saying what?
Get thee up into this mountain, Abram, unto Mount Nebo,
Read.
which is in the land of Moab,
Which is in the land of Moab. Read.
that is over against Jericho. And behold, the land of Canaan,
And behold, see the land of Canaan. Read.
which I give unto the children of Israel for a possession.
That was the promised land. Read.
And die in the mount whither thou goest
The
up.
Lord told Moses he was going to die in that mountain. In Mount Nebo. He was going to die in that mountain. Read.
And be gathered unto thy
And he
people,
was going to be gathered to his people. Read.
as Aaron thy brother died in Mount Hor,
The same way Aaron died in Mount Hor. Read.
and was gathered unto his people.
Read. Let's see why. Read.
Because he trespassed against me among the children of Israel.
Because Moses trespassed against the Lord among the children of Israel. Read.
At the waters
Of Meribah Kadesh.
of Meribah Kadesh,
Read.
and the wilderness of Zin.
Read.
Because he sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel.
Because you sanctified me not in the midst of the children of Israel. Keep reading.
Yet thou shalt see the land before thee,
You're going to see the promised land before you. Read.
but thou shalt not go thither unto the land which I give the children of Israel.
So Moses was never able to enter into the promised land, into the land of Canaan. Why? Because of his trespass against the Lord at Meribah Kadesh. Get that real quick in Judges 20 about his trespass. Judges chapter 20. No, Numbers 20. Numbers chapter 20 and verse 7, excuse me. Numbers chapter 20 and verse 7. Let's start there.
Book of Numbers chapter 20 and verse 7. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying,
Saying what?
Take the rod, and gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes. And it shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink.
Read.
And Moses took the rod from before the Lord, as he commanded him.
Read.
And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock.
They gathered the assembly. Read.
And he said unto them, Hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock?
Must we fetch you water out of this rock? Read.
And Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice.
And Moses lifted up his hand and smote the rock twice. The Lord just told him to talk to the rock, command the rock to give forth water. But Moses did something else. He smote the rock. He hit the rock twice with his staff. Read.
And the water came out abundantly,
Uh-huh.
and the congregation drank, and their beasts also.
Read.
And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel.
God said, because you, Moses and Aaron, didn't believe me to sanctify me in the in the eyes of the house of Israel. Read.
Therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them.
Therefore, they didn't enter into the promised land. Moses didn't, Aaron didn't, and that congregation didn't. When you read the history, only two men of that time did, and that was Joshua and Caleb. That was Joshua and Caleb. But we're going to leave that right there. We're going to leave that right there. So Moses was recognized as king in Israel. But he was king in Jeshurun in Israel in the wilderness. Now, after Moses, there was really no kings over Israel, until you get to Judges 9. Get Judges 9 real quick. Judges 9 and verse 6 real fast. Judges 9 and verse 6. Read this.
Book of Judges chapter 9 and verse 6. And all the men of Shechem gathered together, and all the house of Millo, and went and made Abimelech king by the plain of the pillar that was in Shushan.
So all the men of Shechem and all of the house of Milo, they gathered together and made Abimelech, their brother, the king in Shechem. Jump down to 18 for me.
Book of Judges chapter 9 and verse 18. And ye are risen up against my father's house this day,
Read.
and have slain his sons, 70 persons.
They still killed 70 persons, yo. That's 70 people. Read.
Upon one stone, and have made Abimelech, the son of his maidservant, king over the men of Shechem.
Why?
Because he is your brother.
Because he is your brother. So they made him king over the men in Shechem. Why? Because he was their brother. Jump down to 22. Read 22 and 23.
Verse 22. When Abimelech had reigned 3 years over Israel.
So he had reigned 3 years over Israel. Read.
Then God sent an evil spirit between Abimelech and the men of Shechem.
Here we go.
And the men of Shechem dwelt treacherously with Abimelech.
And the men of Shechem dwelt treacherously with Abimelech. Keep reading.
That the cruelty done to the 70 sons of Jerubbaal might come, and their blood be laid upon Abimelech their brother, which slew them, and upon the men of Shechem, which aided him in the killing of his brother.
Keep going.
And the men of Shechem sent liars in wait for him in the top of the mountains, and they robbed all that came along that way by them. And it was told Abimelech.
And it was told Abimelech. So after him, hey, let's move on. After him, after Abimelech, there were no more kings in Israel until you get to Saul. But give me the book of Judges 17. Judges 17 and 6.
Book of Judges chapter 17 and verse 6.
Uh-huh.
In those days, there was no king in Israel.
Keep going.
But every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
So after Moses, after Abimelech, in those days, there were no kings in Israel. 19 and 1.
The book of Judges chapter 19 verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass in those days, when there was no king in Israel, that there was a certain Levite sojourning on the side of Mount Ephraim, who took to him a concubine out of Bethlehem, Judah.
Once again, in those days, there was no king in Israel. Chapter 21 and 25.
The book of Judges chapter 21 and verse 25.
Read.
In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes.
Once again, in those days, there was no king in Israel. And every man did that which was right in their own eyes, yo. So after Moses, all the way to Ahimelech or Abimelech, after him, there were no kings to arise in Israel until we get to Saul. Until we get to Saul. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 8, and let's start at verse 1.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass, when Samuel was old,
When Samuel was an old man, read.
that he made his sons judges over Israel.
Samuel made his 2 sons judges over Israel, read.
Now the name of his firstborn was Joel,
Uh-huh.
and the name of his second, Abiah.
Read.
They were judges in Beersheba.
They were judges in Beersheba. They judged the Israelites in Beersheba, read.
And his sons walked not in his ways,
Uh-huh.
but turned aside after lucre,
Uh-huh.
and took bribes and perverted judgment.
So his sons, Samuel's sons, did not walk after his ways, man. They took bribes. They perverted judgment. They were about filthy lucre. They were not like their father Samuel. Keep going.
Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together,
Uh-huh.
and came to Samuel unto Ramah.
And came to Samuel unto Ramah. See, Samuel lived in Ramah. His house, his home was in Ramah. Give me 1 Samuel 7 and 15 and read down.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 15.
Read.
And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life.
Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. Samuel was the last true judge over Israel. And he judged Israel all the days of his life. And you may be asking, well, how did Samuel judge Israel? Give me Sirach chapter 43. Oh, excuse me, Sirach 46, 13 and 14. Let me get that.
It was Sirach chapter 46 and verse 13.
Read.
Samuel, the prophet of the Lord,
Samuel was a prophet of the Lord. Read.
beloved of his Lord,
Beloved of his God. Read.
established a kingdom,
He established a kingdom.
and anointed
And
princes.
he anointed princes. He anointed princes, meaning he anointed kings. Remember what God said about his princes, right? You don't remember. Hold this and give me Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 18. No, excuse me, 10 and 8. Isaiah 10 and 8. About what God said about his princes. Because Samuel anointed princes. Read this.
The book of Isaiah chapter 10 and verse 8.
Read.
For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings?
Read it again.
For he saith, are not my princes altogether kings?
The princes of God are kings. They are kings. So when you go back to the book of Sirach 46 and verse 13 again, please.
Book of Sirach, chapter 46 and verse 13.
Read.
Samuel, the prophet of the Lord, beloved of his Lord,
Read.
established a kingdom and anointed princes.
And he anointed princes. He anointed kings. Who are those princes? Who are those kings? Saul and David. Saul and David, yo. And we're going to talk about that in this class. But keep going.
Over his people.
Over his people, which are the Israelites. Read.
By the law of the Lord, he judged the congregation.
Read that part again.
By the law of the Lord, he judged the congregation.
See, Samuel judged Israel all his life. All his life, he judged Israel by the law of the Lord, yo. This is how Samuel judged. His children, not so much. But that's how Samuel judged, though. Read that again.
By the law of the Lord, he judged the congregation.
Read.
And the Lord had respect unto Jacob.
And in his time, the Lord had respect unto Jacob. Respect unto Israel in the time that Samuel judged over the nation. Go back to 1 Samuel chapter 7 and verse 15 again, please.
1 Samuel chapter 7 verse 15. And Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life.
Read.
And he went forth, and he went from year to year in circuit to Bethel and Gilgal and Mizpah, and judged Israel in all those places.
And he judged Israel in all those places. So from year to year, annually, he would go in circuit from Gilgal, Mizpah, and Bethel, and judge the Israelites in those places. Read.
And his return was to Ramah.
And his return was to Ramah. Read.
For there was his house.
There was his house. He lived in Ramah. His home was in Ramah. That's where Samuel lived. Read.
And there he judged Israel.
And he also judged Israel there in Ramah. Read.
And there he built an altar unto the Lord.
So let's go back to chapter 8 and verse 4.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 8 verse 4. Then all the elders of Israel gathered themselves together and came to Samuel unto Ramah, and said unto him, Behold, thou art old, and thy sons walk not in thy ways.
Behold, thou art old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Read.
Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations.
Now make us a king to judge us like all the nations. We wanted to be like the other nations here. We wanted a king like the other nations had, yo. Real talk. Keep reading.
Verse 6. But the thing displeased Samuel.
That bothered Samuel. It displeased him. Read.
When they said, Give us a king to judge us. And Samuel prayed unto the Lord.
But Samuel went to pray unto the Lord. Read.
And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee.
And the Lord told Samuel to listen to what the people are saying. Read.
For they have not rejected thee.
They didn't reject you, Samuel. Read.
But they have rejected me.
They rejected the Lord, Joe. Read.
That I should not reign over them.
That the Lord should not reign over them. Remember, at this time, it was the Lord that ruled and reigned over Israel. Yo. He reigned and ruled over Israel. Side note, Sirach 17:17. Let me get that one real quick. Sirach chapter 17 and verse 17.
It was Sirach chapter 17 and verse 17.
Read.
For in the division of the nations.
In the division of the nations.
Of the whole earth.
Of the whole earth.
He set a ruler over every people.
God set a ruler over every people. A king over every nation. But read.
But Israel.
But who?
But Israel.
Read.
Is the Lord's portion.
But Israel was the Lord's portion. The Lord ruled over Israel, men. But in the time of Samuel's old age, the people of Israel rejected the Lord. We rejected the Lord. Why? Because we wanted to be like the heathens. Give me Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 32 real quick. Let me get Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 32.
The book of Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 32.
And
that which cometh into your mind shall not be at all.
Read.
And then ye say.
You say what?
We will be as the heathen.
We will be as the heathen. Yo. See, our people, for some reason, we always had a thing for being like the heathen. Keep going.
As the families of the countries, to serve wood and stone.
Hey, and as it was in the time of Samuel's old age, as it was in the time of Ezekiel, so it was with the Greeks. Give me that real quick in 1 Maccabees 4. I think it's verse 15. We've always had a thing to be like the heathens, yo. To be like the heathens. And we still feel like that today, for the most part. Our people want to be like the heathen. What heathen? The white man specifically today. As it was in the time of the Maccabees. Read this real quick.
The book of 1 Maccabees chapter 4 verse 13. Howbeit, all the hindmost of them were slain with the sword.
Oh, that ain't it. Let me find it.
Second Maccabees.
Might be 2 Maccabees 4. Let me get that.
Look at 2 Maccabees chapter 4.
And that's
verse
exactly
15.
what it is. Bring it out.
Not setting by the honors of their fathers.
Talking about the Israelites. We didn't set by the honors of our fathers, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Read.
But liking the glory of the Grecian.
But liking the glory of the white man, the white woman. Read.
Best of all.
Best of all. This is how we as a people have been. This is how we as a people are today. We don't care for the honor and the glory that came with our forefathers. We want the honor and the glory that the heathens have today. As it was then, so it is now. We read about that in the time of Samuel in his old age. We read about that in the time of Ezekiel. Now we're reading about it in the time of the Maccabees, yo. In the time of the Maccabees. Go back to 1 Samuel chapter 8 and give me verse 19.
Book of 1 Samuel chapter 8 and verse 19. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
Nevertheless, the people refused to listen to what Samuel was saying. Remember, before this, Samuel was telling them what type of man is going to rule over them as king. Yo. That's what he was telling them. Matter of fact, jump over to verse 10. Read down a little bit.
Verse 10. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked of him a king.
Read.
And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you.
This is going to be the manner of the man that you want to rule over you. Read.
He will take your sons and appoint them for himself.
He's going to take your sons and appoint them for himself. Read.
For his chariots.
For his chariots.
And to be his horsemen.
And to be his horsemen. Read.
And some shall run before his chariots.
And some of them are going to have to run before his chariots. He's telling you he's going to make your sons into servants. Or what we know today as employees. That's what he's saying. He's going to make your sons into employees, servants. Read.
And he will appoint him captains over thousands, and captains over 50s, and will set them to ear his ground.
He's going to set them to ear his ground. They're going to serve. They're going to be workers, employees. Keep going.
And to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war, and instruments of his chariots.
Servants, employees. Read.
And he will take your daughters to be
confectionaries. To be confectionaries, meaning they're going to make different types of perfumes and things like that. A confectionery is a woman who makes perfumes and different odors. Keep reading.
And to be cooks and to be bakers.
And to be cooks and to be bakers. Read.
And he will take your fields and your vineyards and your olive yards.
And your olive yards, yep.
Even the best of them, and give them to his servants.
Jump down to verse 18.
Verse 18. And ye shall cry out in that day, because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you.
Samuel said, and when you recognize this, you're going to cry out. You're going to cry out in that day. Read.
And the Lord will not hear you in that day.
And the Lord ain't going to hear you. He's not going to listen to your cries because you asked for this thing right here. Keep going.
Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel.
Nevertheless, with all that being said, the people still refused to obey what Samuel said. Read.
And they said, nay, but we will have a king over us.
We're going to have a king over us. Read.
That we also may be like all the nations.
Read that part again.
That we also may be like all the nations.
We always wanted to be like all the other nations. It was like that in the time of Samuel's old age. It was like that in the time of Ezekiel. It was like that in the Maccabees. It's like that today. It's like that now. Why you think you see black and brown men out there with blonde hair, blue eyes? We know their contacts.
Now fingernail polish.
Bleaching their skin. Why are they doing that? Because they want to be like the other nations. They have a desire to be like the other nations. When you want the white woman, you're saying you have a desire to be like the white man. Yeah? That's his woman. You're saying you want to be like him. And it's the same thing for the woman. She wants the white man. It's because she has the desire to be like, she wants the white man. She has a desire to be like the white woman. No cap. Keep going.
And that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles.
Read.
And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord.
Keep going.
And the Lord said to Samuel, hearken unto their voice, and make them a king.
Listen to the people, make them a king. Read.
And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, go ye every man unto his city.
Now give me chapter 9 and verse 15. Let's talk about this king. Read.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 15. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear a day before Saul came.
A day before Saul came. Read.
Saying, tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin.
This man is Saul. Read.
And thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people Israel.
And thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people Israel. So Saul was to be anointed captain over the Israelites. Read.
they may save my people out of the land of the Philistines.
Out of the hand of the Philistines, read.
For I have looked upon my people, because their cry is come unto me.
So Saul was going to be anointed captain over the Israelites. Why? To save, to deliver his people out of the hand of the Philistines, yo. Out of the hand of the Philistines, right? The enemy, the adversary. Now, let's talk about Saul. Go to verse 1.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1.
Uh-huh.
Now there was a man of Benjamin, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Barakoth, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power.
A Benjamite, a mighty man of power, is talking about Kish. Kish was a Benjamite. He was a mighty man of power, affluence. He was rich. He was wealthy, yo. He was a wealthy man. Keep going.
And he had a son, whose name was Saul, a choice young man.
And he had a son. His son was Saul. And Saul was a choice young man, yo. You know what that means? He was the one that everybody chose, yo. The guys and the girls. For example, let's say the guys getting together to have a pickup basketball game. Guess who getting picked first? Saul. They choosing Saul first. Hey, let's say the guys get together to go talk to some girls. Guess who the girls choosing first? Saul. Saul was a choice young man. Read.
And a goodly.
And he was a goodly young man. Read.
And there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he.
And there was none among the children of Israel as goodly as Saul. Keep reading.
From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people.
And he was taller than all of the people, yo. Taller than all of the people around him. He was a tall man, a choice young man, a goodly young man. Saul had things going for himself, at least in appearance, on the outside. But on the inside, Saul was what you call insecure. On the inside, Saul was a tiny, small man, yo. On the inside, give me that real quick. Give me that 1 Samuel 15. 1 Samuel 15, 17.
1 Samuel chapter 15, verse 17.
Read.
And Samuel said, when thou was little in thine own sight.
This is Samuel talking to Saul. Read it again.
And Samuel said.
Matter of fact, start at 16 to show you he's talking to Saul.
Verse 16. Then Samuel said unto Saul, stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord hath said to me this night.
Read.
And he said unto him, say on.
Read.
And Samuel said.
And Samuel said unto Saul, read.
When thou was little in thy own sight.
When thou was little in thine own sight, yo. In your own sight. In his own sight, Saul was small. Saul was very little on the inside. Very insecure about himself, yo. Read it again.
And Samuel said, when thou was little in thy own sight, was thou not made that head of the tribes of Israel?
Even though he was little in his own sight, very small on the inside, God made him head over the tribes of Israel, meaning what? He anointed him captain. He anointed him captain. Keep going.
And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel.
And he anointed him king over Israel, even though Saul was very little on the inside. Very, very little on the inside, yo. Now, hey, let's go read about him being anointed captain real quick. 1 Samuel 10 and 1. Since we're talking about Saul being captain, let's read about him being anointed captain. Read that.
We go 1 Samuel chapter 10, verse 1.
Read.
Then Samuel took a vial of oil.
A vial.
A vial of oil, and poured it upon his head.
Poured it upon Saul's head.
And kissed him.
And kissed him.
And said, it is not because the Lord have anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance.
So Saul was anointed captain over the inheritance of the Lord, Joe. He was captain over the armies of Israel. Showing you that Saul was a warrior. He was a fighter, yo. For real. Just to show that as well, give me 1 Samuel 14. 1 Samuel chapter 14, let's start at verse 46 and read down.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 46. Then Saul went up from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place.
Read.
So Saul took the kingdom over Israel.
Saul took the kingdom over Israel. Read.
And fought against all his enemies on every side.
And Saul fought against all of his enemies on every side. This man was a fighter. This man was a warrior, man. He was at war with all of his enemies on every side. Keep going.
Against Moab.
Against Moab. That's the Chinese today. He was at war with them. Read.
And against the children of Ammon.
That's the Japanese today. He was at war with them. Read.
And against Edom.
And that's the Caucasian. He was at war with them, fighting with them. Read.
And against the kings of Zobah. and against the Philistines.
Hamites. He was at war with them, fighting against them. Read.
And whithersoever he turned himself, he vexed them.
And wherever he turned himself to make war, to fight, he vexed them. He vexed the enemy. Real talk. Keep reading.
And he gathered in hosts.
He gathered a host, an army. An army, read.
And smote the Amalekites.
The Amalekites, those are the small hats today. He went and smote them too. Killed them as well. Warred and fought with them as well. Read.
And delivered Israel out of the hands of them that spoiled them.
The enemies. This is who Saul was. He was a deliverer. He was a warrior, a soldier. This is why he was anointed captain. Read.
Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan.
Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan,
Ishui,
read,
and
Melchi Shua. And so these are three of the sons of Saul, right? And we know Jonathan, well, maybe you don't know, but we know in this room, Jonathan was a warrior too. You know what I'm talking about? Jonathan was a soldier too. Side note, give me 1 Maccabees 4 and 30. 1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 30 about Jonathan real quick, the son of Saul.
1 Maccabees chapter 4 and verse 30.
Read.
And when he saw that mighty army,
He's talking about Judas. When he saw that mighty army, read.
he prayed and said,
He prayed unto the Lord and said what?
Blessed art thou, O Savior of Israel,
The Savior of Israel is the Lord. But keep going.
who didst quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David.
He quelled the violence of the mighty man, talking about Goliath, by the hands of his servant David. Read.
And gavest the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer.
And he gave a host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer. See, Jonathan was a warrior too. Jonathan was a warrior too. He went to make war with the Philistines, and all he took with him was his armor bearer. Real talk. Let's read that history real quick. 1 Samuel 14. 1 Samuel 14. We're not going to read the whole history because this class ain't about Jonathan. This class is about the kings, but we got to read this part. 1 Samuel 14 and 13.
It was 1 Samuel chapter 14 and verse 13. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands.
Matter of fact, start at 12.
Verse 12. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor bearer.
The men of the garrison were Philistines. They answered Jonathan and his armor bearer. Read.
And said, Come up to us.
Come up, let's go. Read.
And we will show you a thing.
And we're going to show you something. Read.
And Jonathan said unto his armor bearer, Come up after me.
And Jonathan said to his armor bearer, Follow me. Read.
For the Lord hath delivered them into the hand to the hands of Israel.
Keep going.
And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer slew after him.
And they fell before Jonathan. They fell before Jonathan. And whoever Jonathan didn't kill, the armor bearer came right behind him to kill. Keep going.
And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men.
Read.
Within as it were in half acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow.
So I just wanted to show you Jonathan was a mighty man as well, a warrior. But we ain't gonna go too in depth about it. Let's go back to the book of, stay in the same book. Let's read verse 49 again.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 14 verse 49.
Now
the sons of Saul were Jonathan and Ishui and
Melchi Shua.
And the names of his two daughters were these. The names of the firstborn, Merab. And the name of the younger, Milcah.
Read.
And the name of Saul's wife was Ahom, the daughter of Ahimaaz.
And Micah, remember, that's the one who David ended up marrying later on down the line. But keep going.
And the name of the captain of his host was Abner.
Abner.
It was Abner, Salakia, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle.
Read.
And Kish was the father of Saul, and Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. And there was sore war against the Philistines all the days of Saul.
So all the days of Saul's life, he made war with the Philistines. He was at war with the Philistines. All his days, read.
And when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him unto him.
He took him unto him and put him into his army, into his military to fight. So Saul, the captain of the host, the captain of the army, he was a warrior. He was a fighting man. He was a soldier, This is why he was made captain. You want to say something, bro?
Yeah, and right here, hey, read that last part about when Saul saw.
And when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him unto him.
There go the first drive right there.
There you go. Hey, all praises. Good point out. Good point out. All praises. All praises. So not only was Saul a warrior, captain of the host of the Lord, He was also a prophet. He was also a prophet. Let's show them that real quick. Let's go to 1 Samuel chapter 10. 1 Samuel chapter 10, and let's start at verse 5.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 5.
This is Samuel talking to Saul. Read.
And to that thou shalt come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines.
Read.
And it shall come to pass, when thou art come thither to the city, and that thou shalt meet a company of prophets.
You're going to meet a company of prophets. Samuel told Saul he would meet a company of prophets. Read.
Coming down from the high place with a psaltery,
With a psaltery. Read.
and a tabret, and a pipe, and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy.
And these prophets are going to prophesy. Read.
And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee.
Samuel told Saul that the Spirit of the Lord, which is that Holy Spirit, would come upon Saul. Read.
And thou shalt prophesy.
And Saul would prophesy. Read.
With them.
With the prophets. Read.
And shall be turned into another man.
And he himself would become a new man. A new man. Let's jump down to verse 10 about that happening.
Verse 10. And when they came thither to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him.
A company of prophets met Saul and his servant, just like Samuel said. Keep going.
And the Spirit of God came upon him.
And the Holy Spirit of God came upon Saul, just like Samuel said. Read.
And he prophesied among them.
And he prophesied among them, among the prophets. Saul prophesied. Saul was a prophet. Keep going.
And it came to pass, when all that knew him before time saw that.
And it came to pass, when all that knew Saul, before the Spirit of God had came upon him, read.
Behold, he prophesied among the prophets.
They saw that he prophesied among the prophets. Read.
Then the people said one to another.
What did they say? Read.
What is this that is come unto the son of Kish?
What is this that has come to Saul, the son of Kish? Read.
Is Saul also among the prophets?
Is Saul also among the prophets? Yes. Saul was among the prophets. Prophesying among the prophets. Read.
And one of the same place answered and said, but who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb. Is Saul also among the prophets?
That thing right there became a proverb about Saul. Saul being among the prophets. So Saul was a prophet. He was a prophet. This man was a warrior. This man was anointed captain over Israel. Now let's read about him being anointed king over Israel. First king. You got something you want to say?
Yeah, read down. Can't miss this part.
Verse 13.
Just to go on what you were saying, because a prophet, you know what a prophet does? Let's find out. Verse 14.
And when
verse 13, Salaki.
Verse 13. And when he had made an end of prophesying.
There you go. That's how you know he was a prophet. What he was doing, he was prophesying. Finish out.
He came to the high place.
That's all I want.
There you go. All praises. So once again, he was a prophet. Now, let's read about Saul being anointed king. Let's stay in the same chapter. Let's read verse 20.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 10 verse 20. And when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. Mm-hmm. When he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, the family of Marty was taken.
The family of Matri was taken. Read.
And Saul, the son of Kish, was taken.
And Saul, the son of Kish, out of all of them, he was taken or chosen. Read.
And when they sought him, he could not be found.
But when they were seeking for him, they couldn't find him. Read.
Therefore, they inquired of the Lord further.
Read.
If the man should yet come thither. And the Lord answered, behold, he hath hid himself among the stuff.
So Saul hid himself among the stuff. Why? Because remember, Saul was insecure. Yeah. He was very small in his own eyes. Very little, very tiny on the inside. So he hid himself from the people, from the moment. Read.
And they ran and fetched him thence. And when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders and upward.
He was a very tall brother. Read.
And Samuel said to all the people, see ye him whom the Lord hath chosen, that there is none like him among the people. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king.
And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. God save the king. Give me chapter 11 and verse 14.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 11 and verse 14.
Read.
Then said Samuel to the people, come and let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there.
Come, let us go to Gilgal and renew the kingdom there. In Gilgal, read.
And all the people went to Gilgal. And there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal.
So Saul was officially made king, crowned king, where? In Gilgal. before the people, in front of the people. Read.
And there they sacrificed sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord. And there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly.
And there Saul and all the people turned up and rejoiced greatly. Now, how long was Saul king? How long was his kingship? Let me get that real quick in Acts 13. Acts chapter 13, verse 21.
Acts chapter 13 and verse 21. And afterward they desired a king, and God gave unto them Saul the son of Cis.
Saul the son of Cis, which is Kish. Read.
A man of the tribe of Benjamin. By the space of 40 years.
By the space of 40 years. So Saul, this man right here, he ruled over Israel for 40 years. 40 years. Keep reading.
And when he had removed him. And when he had removed him.
And when he had removed him. When he had removed Saul. Read.
He raised up unto them David to be their king.
He raised up David to be king. David became the king. Read.
To whom also he gave a testimony. And said.
What did he say?
I have found David, the son of Jesse, a man after my own heart, which shall fulfill all my will.
Which shall fulfill all my will. So Saul reigned for 40 years. Afterward, he was removed. David became king. Let's go back to the book of 1 Samuel. Give me 1 Samuel chapter 13 and verse 5. Let me get that.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 5. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand which is on the seashore, in multitude.
Matter of fact, let me see here. Do I want to start there? Yeah, keep going.
And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward from Beth Aven.
Read.
When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves.
Then the people started to hide themselves in caves. They were in fear, afraid. Read.
And in thickets.
And in thickets. Read.
And in rocks.
And in rocks.
And in high places. And in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling.
So as for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and the people followed him in Gilgal in fear, trembling. Read.
And he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him.
So he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. Hey, let's read about that real quick before we move on. Let's go to chapter 10. Chapter 10 and read verse 8. Verse 8.
Look at 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8.
Once again, this is Samuel talking to Saul. We read chapter 10 earlier about how Samuel told Saul, you would run into the prophets, you would prophesy among them, right? Let's read this real quick.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 10 and verse 8. And thou shalt go down before me to Gilgal, and, behold, I will come down unto thee, to offer burnt offerings, and to sacrifice sacrifices of peace offerings. 7 days shalt thou tarry.
So Samuel told Saul he would have to tarry 7 days in Gilgal. Read.
Till I come to thee.
Until Samuel arrived. Read.
And show thee what thou shalt do.
And Samuel would show Saul what he was to do at that time when he arrived in Gilgal. So when we go back, let's go back to chapter 13. And what do we leave off at? What verse? That was 13 and verse... 8. We left up at 8?
Yeah.
Read 8 again.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 8. And he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him.
But Samuel didn't come to Gilgal after 7 days. But keep going.
And Saul said, bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings. And he offered the burnt offerings.
And he offered the burnt offerings, but that's not what Samuel said. Samuel told him to wait until he got there and he would do the offerings, right? Keep reading.
And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of offering...
So as soon as he had finished the offerings, read.
The burnt offering. Behold, Samuel came.
Behold, Samuel came. Now Samuel's coming up. Read.
And Saul went out to meet him, that he might salute him.
Keep going.
And Samuel said, what hast thou done?
And Samuel said, what did you do, yo? Read.
And Saul said, because I saw that the people were scattered from me.
And Saul said, because he saw that the people scattered, meaning they fled from him. Read.
And that thou camest not within the days appointed.
And you didn't show up within the 7 days. Read.
And that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash.
And the Philistines were gathering themselves together at Michmash. Read.
Therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself therefore, and offered a burnt offering.
He said, I forced myself and offered a burnt offering. He did not do what he was told to do. Read.
And Samuel said to Saul, thou hast done foolishly.
And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. That was stupid. That was dumb as hell. Read.
Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God.
You didn't keep the commandment. The commandment was for Saul to wait until Samuel arrived, for Samuel to offer the burnt offerings unto the Lord. That was the commandment. Read.
Which he commanded thee. For now will the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever.
Damn, the Lord would have established the kingdom of Israel with Saul forever. Meaning, the kings would have been of Saul's posterity. They would have been of Benjamin. They would have been of Benjamin. But didn't happen. Why? Because Saul transgressed the commandment of the Lord. And because of that, the kings came out of Judah. David's posterity because of that. Matter of fact, side note, Sirach 45:25. Let me get that real quick. Side note, Sirach 45:25.
The book of Sirach, chapter 45, and verse 21. The book of Sirach, chapter 45, verse 25.
Read.
According to the covenant made with David, son of Jesse, of the tribe of Judah, that the inheritance of the king should be to his posterity alone.
That the inheritance of the kings should be to his posterity alone. Talking about to David, this happened because of Saul's mess up. Because Saul transgressed. The kingdom would have been in his hands. It would have been to his posterity. But since he messed up, it was given to David and his children. Keep going.
So the inheritance of Aaron should also be unto his seed.
In the same way that the inheritance of the high priesthood belonged to Aaron. Now the inheritance of the kings belonged to David. Let's go back to the book of 1 Samuel chapter 13 and let's read verse 14.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 13 verse 14. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. The Lord has sought him a man after his own heart.
Who is that man? David. David is that man. Was that man. Read.
And the Lord hath commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee.
Because Saul did not do what he was commanded to do. So he was removed eventually, and David was raised up to be king. And the kings were of his posterity after that thing right there. Hey, let's go to chapter 15 and verse 18.
Book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse 18. And the Lord sent thee on a journey. And
talking about Saul. The Lord sent Saul on a journey. Read it again.
And the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners of Amalek.
Read. Of the Amalekites.
Of the Amalekites. And fight against them until they be consumed.
Until they be utterly consumed, Joe. The Lord commanded Saul to consume Amalek. Consume the Amalekites, yo. For real. Jump up to verse 2. Let's read down.
The book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 verse 2.
Let's start at 1. Forget it. Let's start at 1 and read down.
Verse 1. Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore, hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord.
Hearken to the voice of the words of the Lord. Read.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I have remembered that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt.
Yeah, you remember what Amalek did when we came up out of Egypt, right? Hold up. Where's that at?
In Deuteronomy.
Is it in Deuteronomy?
Yeah.
Or Exodus?
That is supposed to hide most of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Deuteronomy.
Go get that. I want that one right there about the one in Deuteronomy. If it's the one in Deuteronomy. I didn't put this in the class, but it just popped up.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 25 and verse 17. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way.
Bring it up.
When ye were come forth out of Egypt. How he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee.
See what Amalek did when we came out of Egypt? He met us in the way and started to kill the most hind part of the nation of Israel. The most feeble, the elderly, the young, those who weren't strong enough to keep up. Keep going.
Even all that were feeble behind thee.
See, read.
When thou was faint and weary.
When we were faint and weary, read.
And he feared not God.
And he didn't fear God. This is what he did to us when we came out of Egypt. Is there more up there? I want?
No.
You sure?
Verse 19 is other too.
Yeah, get read it.
Therefore it shall be, when the Lord thy God hath given thee rest from all thy enemies round about,
Read.
and the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it,
Uh-huh.
that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it.
This is future prophecy. This is kingdom prophecy right here, yo. What Saul didn't do, we will do, Lord's will. We are counted among that number. You know what I'm talking about?
Look, you know who's going to do it? The kings and the priests.
Yeah, you know it. The warriors. The soldiers of the Lord. That's who's going to do it. Let's go back to 1 Samuel 15. Let's go back to 1 Samuel 15. Pick up where you were.
Book of 1 Samuel chapter 15 and verse...
you was at 1. Because you said start out with verse 1.
Verse 1, yeah. It says, Samuel also...
Oh, no, verse 2.
Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel.
We just read it. We just read it. Remember, when we came out of Egypt, he began to smite the hindmost of us, the most feeble. That would be our elderly. That would be our young. That would be the women with child, pregnant, and with suckling children and little infants.
Yeah, nursing mothers.
Yeah, that's what would be the feeble amongst us. But keep going.
How he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt.
Keep going.
Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they had.
So Saul was commanded to go and kill Amalek and destroy everything that they had. Read.
And spare them not.
And don't spare none of them. Read.
But slay both man and woman.
Kill man and woman.
Infant and suckling.
Infant and suckling.
Ox and sheep.
Ox and sheep.
Camel and ass.
Camel and ass. Why? Because that's what they did to us. What goes around comes around, yo. That universal concept called karma. You know where they get it from? They get it from the Bible. They get it from that proverb that says you reap what you sow. That's where they get that thing from. This is why God sent Saul to do this to Amalek, because that's what they did to us, yo. That's what they did to us. And you know the scriptures say, yo, you kill us with the sword, you must be killed with the sword. Real talk. Keep going.
Verse 4. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telium, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah.
200,000 footmen and what?
And 10,000 men of Judah.
And 10,000 men of Judah. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havalia until thou comest to shore, that is over against Esau.
So Saul went out to smite the Amalekites, just like he was commanded to do. And he did that thing right there, yo. From Havilah until thou comest to shore, that is over against Egypt. Read.
And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive.
But he didn't kill everybody like he was commanded to do. He left some people alive, including the king over the Amalekites, which was Agag. Read.
And utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword.
Read.
But Saul and the people spared Agag.
But Saul and the people spared Agag.
And the best of the sheep.
And the best of the sheep.
And of the oxen.
And of the oxen.
And of the fatlings. And of the lambs.
Read.
And all that was good. And would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refused, that they destroyed utterly.
So they wouldn't destroy everything. They destroyed the things that they just considered vile and trash. Refuse is trash. Keep going.
Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king.
Why?
For he is turned back from following me.
Because he turned back from following the Lord. Read.
And have not performed my commandments.
He did not perform the commandments of the Lord. Read.
And it grieved Samuel. And he cried unto the Lord all night.
And it grieved Samuel. That thing grieved Samuel. It bothered Samuel. Jump down to 18.
Verse 18. And the Lord sent thee on a journey and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners of the Amalekites and fight against them until they be consumed.
And fight against them until they be consumed. Keep going.
Wherefore, then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord.
But he did not obey the voice of the Lord. He didn't fight against them until they were all consumed, man. He spared Agag, the king. Read.
But didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord.
And not only did he spare Agag the king, but notice what Samuel said. He said, you flew upon the spoil, yo. You flew upon it. You wanted that. Read.
And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me.
Oh, where we at?
Verse 20.
Verse 20.
Go back 19, yeah.
Yeah, read 19 again. That's what I want. Read 19 again.
Wherefore, then didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord.
Read.
But didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord.
And he did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. And because of that evil, Saul was removed, Joe. Was removed. Also, let me show you something else about Saul's character. Jump over to verse 24.
Verse 24. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord, and the words, and thy words, Salakia, because I feared the people
Here we go.
and obeyed their voice.
See, Saul was a fearful man. In all actuality, he feared the people, man. He feared the people. And you know what fear of people will make you do? It'll make you transgress God's commandments. It'll make you obey them over God. That's what happened to Saul, yo. So Saul was removed. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, it's like today when you see certain political figures up in office and saying in certain chairs or seats, they fear who? Not the people, but the lobbyists, the ones that give them the money. They don't want the people that give them the money to take their money and go to another party. Mm-hmm. So what they would do, they would have an open ear. You know, they would do certain favors. You know, they don't call it bribe, they call it lobbying when the white man do it. But when the black man do it, they call it bribe. But that's another story.
Hey, read 25.
Verse 25. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord.
Read.
And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee.
And Samuel said, I'm not returning with you. Read.
For thou hast rejected the word of the Lord.
Because he rejected the word. Read.
And the Lord has rejected thee from being king over Israel.
And because of that, the Lord rejected him from being king over Israel. What verse was that?
That was verse 26.
Read.
Verse 27. And as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle, and it rent.
So when Samuel turned about to leave, Saul laid hold on the skirt of Samuel's mantle, and he ripped it, yo. And he ripped it. That's what it means when it says it was rent. A mantle is like what you see Palpatine wearing in Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? It's that cloak with the hood on it. That's what Samuel was wearing. When he turned to walk away, Saul reached out, grabbed it, and it rent. He tore it. Keep reading.
And Samuel said unto him, the Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day.
And that was a sign that the Lord had rent the kingdom of Israel from Saul that very day. Read.
And hath given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou.
And he said he gave it to your own, to a neighbor of yours. And this neighbor is better than you, yo. You know, in Israel, we have a hard time with believing some people are better than others. Well, according to the Bible, some people are better than others, whether you like it or not. In this situation, in this example, it's talking about David. David being better than Saul, yo. Real talk. Give me Proverbs 12, though. Proverbs 12 about some of us being better than others.
Book of Proverbs chapter 12 verse 26.
Read.
The righteous.
Who?
The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor.
See? The righteous is more excellent or better than his or her neighbor. Who is the righteous? The righteous is the man, woman that does what God commands them to do. That's the righteous. And the Bible said what? Read it again.
The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor.
The Bible says the righteous is better than his neighbor. The righteous is better than her neighbor. They're more excellent. Keep going.
But the way of the wicked seduceth them.
But the way of the wicked seduces them. So stop with all the nobody's better than anybody. We're all equal. No, we're not. We're not all equal. Sometimes some people are better than others. Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, let me get one too. Hey, get second address 16. Let me get that real quick to see what that's what I want. Second address 16. And yeah, verse 49.
Book of 2 Ezra chapter 16 and verse 49. Like as a whore envieth a right honest and virtuous woman.
Yeah, there you go. You know, even a whore, a whore knows that a virtuous woman is better than she is. That lets you know, that there are people that's better, especially those that are doing God's commandments. You are going to be better. You are going to be better. You're going to be excellent than your neighbor.
A virtuous woman is better than a whore. Straight up. The virtuous woman is better than the whore.
A woman that keeps God's law, statute, commandments is better than a whore.
Yeah, because when you look up virtuous, a similar word, righteous, lawful, law-abiding.
Yep.
That's what it says. A virtuous woman, a law-keeping woman is better than a whore. The whore, she ain't keeping no law.
Hey, so I'm just leaving that there for y'all sisters that keeping God's law, statute, commandments. Just know y'all better than them other women they show on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and that whore-like mentality. Remember, those virtuous sisters are better than those that they show out on media.
You gotta believe that thing too.
Facts.
But let's get back to it. Give me the book of 1 Samuel chapter 31. Let's talk about the death of King Saul. 1 Samuel 31 and 1.
Book of 1 Samuel chapter 31 verse 1. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and fell down slain in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard upon Saul and upon his sons, and the Philistines slew Jonathan.
They killed Jonathan
And Abinadab.
and Abinadab.
And Malchishua.
Yep, and Melchishua. Read.
Saul's sons.
Read.
And the battle went sore against Saul, and the archers hit him.
So the battle went bad for Saul. He got hit by the archers, yo. He got hit by arrows. Read.
And he was sore wounded of the archers.
And he was sore wounded. Those were fatal wounds. Keep reading. Or sore wounds. Read.
Then said Saul unto his armor bearer, Draw thy sword, and thrust me through therewith.
So he wanted his armor bearer to kill him. Read.
Lest these uncircumcised come and thrust me through.
Because he didn't want the uncircumcised, talking about the heathen, these Philistines, to come and kill him. Read.
And abuse me.
And abuse him. Read.
But his armor bearer would not.
But his armor bearer wouldn't do it. Read.
For he was sore afraid.
He was afraid too. Read.
Therefore Saul took a sword and fell upon
So
him.
Saul took a sword and fell upon it. He tried to kill himself. He tried to take his own life. Read.
And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead,
Uh-huh.
he fell likewise upon his sword and died with him.
Read.
So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and his armor bearer, and all his men that same day together.
Now, hey, let's talk. I want to still talk about Saul's death. Go to 2 Samuel real quick. 2 Samuel chapter 1, and I want verse 13. Nope, let's start at 12.
2 Samuel chapter 1 and verse 12. And they mourned, and wept, and fasted until even for Saul, and for Jonathan his son, and for the people of the Lord, and for the house of Israel, because they were fallen by the sword.
Because they died. They died in battle. Read.
And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger,
I'm the son of a stranger.
an Amalekite.
An Amalekite. So David's talking to an Amalekite right here. A small hat. Read.
And David said unto him, How was thou not afraid to stretch forth?
Matter of fact, where's the part that... Matter of fact, keep going. Keep going.
Verse 14. And David said unto him, How was thou not afraid to stretch forth thy hand to destroy the Lord's anointed?
This Amalekite stretched forth his hand against Saul, yo. Against Saul. Let's jump up to prove that real quick. Verse 8.
Verse 8. And he said unto me, Who art thou? And I answered him, I am an Amalekite.
No matter of fact, let's start at 5.
Verse 5.
No, hold on. Let me see here. I didn't put this in my class, but I want to start. Let's start at 6.
Verse 6. And the young man that told him said, As it happened by chance upon Mount Gilboa, behold, Saul leaned upon his spear.
So he saw Saul attempt to kill himself. He saw Saul's attempt to kill himself. Read.
And lo, the chariots and horsemen followed hard after him.
Read.
And when he looked behind him, he saw me.
He saw me. Read.
And called unto me.
Saul called unto him. Read.
And I answered, Here I am.
Uh-huh.
And he said unto me, Who art thou?
Saul asked, Who the hell are you? Read.
And I answered him, I am an Amalekite.
I'm an Amalekite. Read.
And he said unto me, Stand, I pray thee, upon me, and slay me.
And do what?
And slay me.
And kill me. He said Saul asked for him to kill him. Read.
For anguish has come upon me, because my life is yet whole in me.
Remember, he was sore wounded. He was wounded, but it wasn't fatal. Read.
So I stood upon him and slew him.
You hear what the Amalekite said? He said he stood upon Saul and killed him. Read.
Because I was sure that he could not live after that he was fallen.
He was like, I was sure he was going to die anyway. I knew he was dead anyway, right? Read.
And I took the crown that was upon his
He
head,
took the crown
and the bracelet that was on his arm,
and his bracelet,
and have brought them hither unto my Lord.
and he brought them to David. Read. Now jump down to verse 13.
Verse 13. And David said unto the young man that told him, Whence art thou? And he answered, I am the son of a stranger, an Amalekite.
Read.
David said unto him, How was thou not afraid to stretch forth thy hand to destroy the Lord's
You
anointed?
weren't afraid to stretch forth your hand to destroy, to kill Saul, the Lord's anointed? Read.
And David called one of his young men
So David called one of his young men. Read.
and said,
What?
Go near,
Go near
and fall upon him.
and fall upon the stranger, this Amalekite. Read.
And he smote him that he died.
And he killed him. He killed that Amalekite right there. He died, yo. So this is what they say happened to Saul, yo. Now, go ahead.
Hey, you know what I got from this too as well? David noticed something about this young man.
Oh, yeah, good point out.
He said that if he could touch the hands of the anointed, what made him think he can't do that to me? You know what I mean? What made he think he can't switch that blade on me? He's my armor bearer. What made him think that he can't stab me in the side one day, then take my crown, take my... But that was just something.
David was a prophet. David didn't believe his enemy, yo. You know how the scriptures say, never trust thine enemy? Get that real quick, never trust thine enemy. David understood this thing right here. When we talk about your enemy, we talking about those of the other nations. David understood this right here. Read that.
The book of Sirach, chapter 12 and verse 10. Never trust thine enemy.
Never what?
Never trust thine enemy.
David understood that. Never trust your enemy. Amalek, the Amalekites, they're enemies. You remember what they did to us when we came out of Egypt? They're enemies, yo.
Well, David did.
yeah, the Lord did.
Yeah, the Lord did.
We do. Real talk, we get to read it. Read it again.
Never trust thine enemy. Like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
So David understood this. Never trust your enemy. Remember, David was a prophet. David was a prophet. Get that about David being a prophet. Acts chapter 2, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Let me get that about David being a prophet real quick. David himself was a prophet.
The book of Acts chapter 2 and verse 29.
Read.
Men and brethren, let me freely speak unto you of the patriarch David.
Of the patriarch David. Read.
That is both dead and buried, and his sepulchre is with us unto this day. Therefore, being a prophet.
Being what?
Being a prophet.
Being a prophet. Read.
And knowing that God has sworn with an oath to him, that of the fruit of his loins, according to the flesh, he would raise up Christ to sit on his throne.
So David, the son of Jesse, King David, was a prophet, yo. You weren't going to be able to get over on him. That Amalekite found that out, yo. Real talk. Give me the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 23. 2nd Ezra 3 and 23.
The book of 2nd Ezra chapter 3 and verse 23.
Read.
So the times passed away, and the years were brought to an end. Then didst thou raise thee up a servant called David, whom thou commandest to build a city unto thy name.
Who thou commanded to build a city unto thy name. Read.
And to offer incense and oblations unto thee therein.
And to offer incense and oblations. Oblations are offerings. Remember, after Saul was removed, David was raised up. So let's get into David. Let's go to 2 Samuel 2 and 1.
Book of 2 Samuel chapter 2 and verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass after this, that David inquired of the Lord, saying, Shall I go up into any of the cities of Judah?
Read.
And the Lord said unto him, Go up. And David said, Whither shall I go up? And he said, Unto Hebron.
Unto Hebron. Read.
So David went up thither, and his two wives also, Ahinoam and
Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, Nabal's wife, the Carmelite. Verse 3.
And his men that were with him did David bring up, every man with his household. And they dwelt in the cities of Hebron.
Keep reading.
And the men of Judah came, and there they anointed David king over the house of Judah.
And there the men of Judah anointed David king over the house of Judah. Read.
And they told David, saying, that the men of Jabesh Gilead were they that buried Saul.
So David was made king over Judah in Hebron, yo. In Hebron. Jump down to verse 8 for me.
Verse 8.
Matter of fact, hold up. Let me make sure. Yep, verse 8.
But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's host, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul.
Read.
And brought him over to Mahanaim.
So Saul had a surviving son, Ishbosheth. Keep reading.
And made him king over Gilead.
And the people made him king over Israel in Gilead. Or made him king over Gilead. Excuse me. Read.
And over the Ashurites.
And over the Ashurites.
And over Jezreel. And over Ephraim. And over Benjamin. And over all Israel. So he was king over all Israel except for Judah. David was king over Judah, the big old tribe of Judah. You know what I'm talking about? Keep going. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel.
He was 40 years old when he became king. Read.
And reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David.
So he reigned for 2 years. 2 years. But the house of Judah, though, we didn't follow him. We followed David the king. David the king. Now, during this time, there was war, yo. War between the house of Saul and the house of David. 2 Samuel 3 and 1.
Book of 2 Samuel chapter 3 verse 1. Now Now there was long war between the house of Saul and the house of David.
See, there was long war between the house of Saul and David. War between David and Ishbosheth. Read.
But David waxed stronger and stronger.
But David waxed stronger and stronger. Read.
And the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker.
But the house of Saul waxed weaker and weaker. Weaker and weaker. Jump down to verse 6.
Verse 6. And it came to pass, while there was war between the house of Saul and the house of David, that Abner made himself strong for the house of Saul.
Read.
And Saul had a concubine whose name was Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah. And Ishbosheth said to Abner, Wherefore hast thou gone in unto my father's concubine?
So Ishbosheth, he thought that Abner went in to have sex with his father's concubine, his dead father's concubine at that. Keep going.
Then was Abner very wroth for the words of Ishbosheth.
And that pissed Abner off, yo. He was pissed off at Ishbosheth because of what he said. Read.
And said, I am a dog's head.
Am I a dog's head? Read.
Which against Judah did show kindness this day unto the house of Saul thy father.
Read.
And to his brethren, and to his friends, and have not delivered thee into the hand of David.
So I didn't deliver you into the hand of David. Read.
That thou chargest me today with a fault concerning this woman.
And you charging me with this? Concerning this woman right here? Read.
So do God to Abner, and more also, except as the Lord hath sworn to David, even so I do to him. To translate the kingdom from the house of Saul, and to set up the throne of David over Israel.
Read.
And over Judah, from Dan even to Beersheba.
Read.
And he could not answer of Abner a word again, because he feared him.
So Abner turned on him because of that thing. And he turned on him and he vowed to make sure that David was set up as king over all of the tribes of Israel. What's up?
Oh, no, it's not.
If you got something, what you got?
Nah, that's not.
Oh, it's nothing?
Nah.
All right, give me 2 Samuel 4 and 5. 2 Samuel 4 and 5.
The book of 2 Samuel chapter 4 and verse 5. And the sons of Riman, the Berite, Rechab, and Banah went and came about the heat of the day of the house of Ishbosheth, who lay on a bed at noon.
Who was laying on a bed at noontime. Read.
And they came thither into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat.
And they came into the midst of the house, pretending as if they were just coming to get wheat. Read.
And they smote him under the fifth rib.
But they killed him. They smote him under the fifth rib. Hit him in the heart. Read.
And Rechab and Banah, his brother, escaped.
And they escaped. Read.
For when they came into the house, he lay on his bed, and his bedchamber, and they smote him, and slew him, and beheaded him.
And they cut his head off.
And took his head.
And
got them away through the plain all night.
And they got away in the night through the plain. Read.
And they brought the head of Ishbosheth unto David.
And they brought Ishbosheth's head to David. Man, read.
To Hebron. And said to the king, Behold, the head of Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, thine enemy.
Read.
Which sought thy life. And the Lord have avenged my Lord, the king, this day, of Saul and of his seed.
Hey, give me 2 Samuel 5 and 1.
2 Samuel chapter 5 verse 1. Then came all the tribes of Israel to David unto Hebron, and spake, saying, Behold, we are thy bone and thy flesh.
We are thy bone and thy flesh. Verse 3.
Verse 3. So all the elders of Israel came to the king of Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord. And they anointed David king over Israel.
And they anointed David king over Israel, over all 12 tribes. Read.
David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years.
And he was 30 years old when he began to reign. And he reigned for how many years?
40 years.
He reigned for 40 years. 40 years, man. Real talk. Hey, let me see here. Where do I want to go from here? Give me 1 Samuel 22. 1 Samuel 22 and 1. Let's talk about David.
Book of 1 Samuel chapter 22 and verse 1. David therefore departed thence and escaped to the cave Adullam, and when his brethren and all his father's house.
Excuse me. Where you at?
1 Samuel 22 and 1.
I want, excuse me, 2 Samuel 22 and 1. 2 Samuel, my fault if I said first.
Book of 2 Samuel chapter 22 verse 1. And David spake unto the Lord the words of this song and the day that the Lord had delivered him out of the hand of all his enemies, and out of the hand of Saul.
And out of the hand of Saul. Verse 30.
Verse 30. For by thee I have run through a troop. By my God have I leaped over a wall.
This is David talking about himself when he was in his youth. Read it again.
For by thee I have run through a troop. By my God have I leaped over a wall.
See, David was a mighty man. He was a man that could run through a troop. He was what you call a one-man army. That's who David was. He was able to run through a troop, leap over a wall, yo. Jump over high walls. Keep going.
As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tried. He is a buckler to all them that trust in him.
Jump down to 33.
Verse 33. God is my strength and power, and he maketh my way perfect.
Read.
He maketh my feet like hinds feet.
David said his feet were like hinds feet, meaning David was fast, yo. He was fast. He was agile.
Yeah, quick on his feet.
He was quick on his feet, yo. He lateral movements too. You know what I'm talking about? Keep going.
And setteth me upon my high places. He teacheth my hands to war.
David was a man of war. The Lord taught him how to war. David could fight. Read.
So that a bow of steel is broken by my arm.
David was so strong that he could break steel. Every time I read this, I just imagine David breaking Superman, yo. Every single time I read this, I imagine David breaking Superman, the man of steel. David was a mighty man. David could break steel, yo. Give me Sirach chapter 47 about David. Sirach chapter 47 and verse 1. Let me get that.
Book of Sirach chapter 47 and verse 1. And after him rose up Nathan Nathan to prophesy in the time of David.
Nathan was the prophet, one of the prophets in the time of David. Read.
As in the fat taking away from the peace offering, so is David chosen out of the children of Israel.
Read.
He played with lions as with kids.
He played with fully grown lions like you would play with kids. Kids are like baby goats and baby sheep. Read.
And with bears as with lambs.
And he played with bears, full grown bears, grizzly bears, black bears. If he could have made it to the Arctic, he would have played with polar bears like you play with lambs, yo. Read.
Slew he not a giant?
Didn't he kill Goliath, the giant? Read.
When he was yet but young?
And he was a young man when he did that thing. Read.
And did not he take away reproach from the people?
He did. Read.
When he lifted up his hand with the stone and the sling, and beat down the boasting of Goliath.
And beat down the boasting of the giant, Goliath. Read.
For he called upon the Most High Lord, and he gave him strength in his right hand.
The Lord gave him strength in the right hand. Read.
To slay that mighty warrior.
Goliath, the giant. Read.
And set up the horn of his people.
And set up the horn of his people. Read.
So the people honored him with 10,000.
The people honored David with 10,000s. Saul killed his thousands. David, his 10,000s. Read.
And praised him in the blessings of the Lord. And that he gave him a crown of glory.
Read.
For he destroyed the enemies on every side.
David was a warrior man. He destroyed the enemies of Israel on every side. Read.
And brought to naught the Philistines.
And he brought the Philistines to nothing. Read.
His adversaries.
His adversaries. Read.
And brake their horn and sunder unto this day.
Even unto this day as well, yo. It was like that in the time this was written. It's like that in today's times as we read it. Their horn has been broken asunder, yo. Real talk. Is that it?
Yes, that was it.
All praises, all praise. Let's go from there. Let's see, what do I want to get here? Let's go from there. And let's go to 1 John 5. 1 John. Did we read verse 8?
No.
In Psalm 47? Did we get down to verse 8?
Psalms
Verse
47.
8.
Go down to verse 8.
Verse 8. And all
I
his
said
works.
Psalm 47, that's Sirach 47. Read that.
Book of Sirach, 47, verse 8.
Uh-huh.
And all his works.
Where did we leave off at? Excuse
Verse
me.
7.
We left off at 7?
Yep.
All right, yeah, go ahead.
Unto this day.
Read that.
The book of Sirach, 47, and verse 8.
Uh-huh.
And all his works he praised the Holy One Most High.
He's talking about David. In all his works, he praised the Lord. Read.
With words of glory.
With words of glory.
With his whole heart he sung songs.
With his whole heart, he sung songs.
And loved him that made him.
And loved him that made him. With his whole heart, David loved God, yo. You know what it means to love God? 1 John 5 and 3 real quick. You know what it means to love God Almighty, right? Well, if you don't know, you're about to know. Read this real quick.
Book of 1 John, chapter 5, and verse 3.
Read.
For this is the love of God.
This is the love of God. This is how you love God. Read.
That we keep his commandments.
And what?
And his commandments are not grievous.
That's how you love God. That's how David loved God. He kept the commandments of the one that made him. He kept the commandments of God. Did he fall short? Of course. We all fall short. But David, the Bible tells you he only fell short once. Give me that real quick in 1 Kings chapter 16 and 5, I think, or is it 15 and 5? Let me get there. Let me get there real quick. 1 Kings 15 and 5.
Read 1 Kings chapter 15, verse 5.
Uh-huh.
Because David did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord.
See, David did the things that were right in the eyes of the Lord. Read.
And turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life.
He didn't turn aside from the things that God commanded him all the days of his life. Read.
Save only in the matter of Uriah the Hittite.
Save meaning except for that one matter dealing with Uriah the Hittite. Outside of that, David always did the things that were right in the eyes of God, Joe. What are the things that are right in the eyes of God? Give me Psalm chapter 19 and verse 8 real quick. What are the things that are right in the sight of God, in God's eyes? Psalm 19 and 8.
With Psalm 19 verse 8.
Read.
The statutes of the Lord are right.
The statutes of the Lord are right. What are statutes? Laws. The laws of God, those things are right. Read.
Rejoicing the heart. The commandment of the Lord is pure.
Doing what?
Enlightening the eye.
Give me the one in Nehemiah, I believe it is as well. Nehemiah 9, it's like 12, 13 or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Let me get that one.
Look at Nehemiah chapter 9 and verse 13. Thou camest down also upon Mount Sinai.
Read.
And spakest with them from heaven. And gavest them right judgment.
And gave them what?
Right judgment.
Not only are the statutes of the Lord right, but his judgments are right.
Right.
Read.
And true law.
And true laws.
Good statutes.
Good statutes. Not only are the statutes right, but they're good as well. Read.
And commandments.
And commandments. This is what it means to do right in the sight of the Lord. Read the next verse for me.
Verse 14. And madest known unto them thy holy Sabbaths, and commandest them precepts, statutes, and laws by the hand of Moses thy servant.
All praises. All praises. Hosea 14, another one. Give me Hosea 14 in the last verse. I think it's like verse 9, whatever the last verse is. Let me get that.
The book of Hosea chapter 14 and verse 9.
Read.
Who is wise, and he shall understand these things.
If you're wise, you will understand this. Read.
Prudent, and he shall know them.
If you're prudent, you'll know these things. Read.
For the ways of the Lord are right.
For the ways of the Lord are right. You want to know what's right? It's the ways of the Lord. The ways of the Lord are right. Read.
And the just shall walk in them.
And the just are going to walk in those ways. Is that it?
No.
Finish the verse.
But the transgressors.
Who?
But the transgressors.
The sinners. Read.
Shall fall therein.
They're going to fall therein. They are going to fall therein. So what's right? God's statutes, his judgments, his ways are right, yo. And David, he walked like this his whole life. He walked in God's statutes or his laws and his judgments and his ways his whole life. Never messed up except for that one thing, that one matter concerning Uriah the Hittite, yo. That was it. Hey, you got anything you want to add, bro?
Nah, I'm preaching.
Give me 1 Kings chapter 2. 1 Kings chapter 2. And let me see here. Let's read verse 10.
1 Kings chapter 2 and verse 10.
So
David slept with his fathers.
So David slept with his fathers. Read.
And was buried in the city of David.
And was buried in the city of David. Remember, he reigned for 40 years. Then he died, and he was buried in the city of David. Read.
In the days that David reigned over Israel were 40 years. 7 years reigned he in Hebron.
He started off reigning in Hebron. 7 years. Read.
And 33 years reigned he in Jerusalem.
In the last 33 years, he reigned in Jerusalem. So that's 40 years in total. David reigned. 7 in Hebron, the last 33 in Jerusalem. After David, you will realize all the kings reigned in Judah from Jerusalem, yo. You know, this is where the Edomite gets the idea of the president living in the White House in Washington, D.C. They got that from us, yo. They got that from us. See, our forefathers, our kings, the kings of our people always reigned from the capital. They reigned from the capital. Southern Kingdom reigned from Jerusalem. As we move on later on in this class, you will realize that the Northern Kingdom ended up reigning in,
I know you're talking about that.
not Shechem, Samaria. They ended up reigning in Samaria, yo. And we're going to get to that later on in this series, Lord's will. But let's move on. So we read about David dying. Did we finish verse 11? Yeah, I think we did. Read verse 12.
Verse 12. Then sat Solomon upon the throne of David his father.
Then sat Solomon upon the throne of David his father. Read.
And his kingdom was established greatly.
And Solomon's kingdom was established greatly. So after the death of David, Solomon, his son, became king. He became the king, yo. Give me the book of 1 Kings 4 and 1.
1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 1. So King Solomon was king over all Israel.
And he was king over all Israel. Verse 20.
Verse 20. Judah and Israel were many as the sand which is by the seashore, which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking.
This is 1 Kings 4 and 20. Yep, keep going. Verse 21.
Verse 21. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms, from the river unto the land of the Philistines, and unto the border of Egypt. They brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life.
They served Solomon all the days of his life. They brought him presents. They became tributaries, yo, to Solomon, and they served him all the days of his life. Give me Sirach 47. Sirach chapter 47. Hold up. Matter of fact, yep, Sirach 47 and 12.
The book of Sirach chapter 47 and verse 12. After him rose up a wise son.
After David rose up a wise son. Read.
And for his sake he dwelt at large. Solomon reigned in a peaceable time.
Solomon reigned in a peaceable time. Read.
And was honored.
And was honored.
For God made all quiet round about him.
There was no war round about Solomon in his time. Read.
That he might build a house in his name and prepare a sanctuary forever.
Solomon is the one who built the first temple of the Lord. He's the one who built the house for the Lord. Keep reading.
How wise was thou in thy youth?
He was wise even in his youth. Even as a young man, Solomon was wise. He had wisdom. Read.
And as a flood filled with understanding.
And he was filled with understanding. Read.
Thy soul covered the whole earth. And thou filled it with dark parables.
He filled the earth with dark parables.
Thy name went far unto the island.
He was famous. Read.
And for thy peace thou was beloved.
Read.
The countries marveled at thee for thy songs, and proverbs, and parables, and
interpretations. Hold that. Give me 1 Kings. 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 32. How many songs in Proverbs did Solomon have? Read this real quick.
1 Kings chapter 4 verse 32. And he spake 3,000 proverbs.
He spoke 3,000 proverbs. Read.
And his songs were 1,005.
And he had 1,005 songs, yo. 1,005 songs. This is how many proverbs and songs Solomon had, yo. Hey, give me the one about Solomon calling fire down from heaven as well, yo. What is that? 2 Chronicles 7? Is it 2nd or 1st? I think it's 2 Chronicles. Give me 2 Chronicles 7. Yeah, you just check. Just make sure I ain't tripping. Let me get there and make sure. 2 Chronicles. Yep, 7 and 1. Let me get that.
Look at 2 Chronicles chapter 7 verse 1. Now when Solomon had made an end of praying, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of the Lord filled the house.
So Solomon had power to call fire down from heaven, yo. Hey, it says the same 2 Maccabees too. It says the same thing in 2 Maccabees. Solomon had power to call fire from heaven. Read this.
2 Maccabees chapter 2 and verse
10.
Verse 10, thank you. And as when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire came down from heaven and consumed the sacrifices.
Read.
Even so prayed Solomon also, and the fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offerings.
There you go. So Solomon had power. Power to call fire down from heaven, just like Moses did. Or just like Elijah did. You remember when we read about Elijah calling down the fire from heaven? To destroy what is it, the 2 captains of 50s? The 2 captains of 50s? Well, Solomon had that power as well. Also, Solomon was the wisest man to ever walk the earth. Give me that. Where's that at? I ain't put it in my class, but I want that. 1 Kings.
In verse 30.
Call it and read it.
Look at 1 Kings chapter 4 and verse 30.
Read.
And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of all the children.
Start at 29.
Verse 29. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding, exceeding much, and largeness of heart.
And largeness of heart, yo. Solomon was using his entire brain, yo. Read.
Even as the sand that is on the seashore.
Even as the sand that is on the seashore. Read.
And Solomon's wisdom excelled the wisdom of the children of the East Country, and the wisdom of Egypt.
His wisdom excelled all the wisdom of the children of the East Country. That would be Moab. China. You know how everybody thinks China is the most intellectual people in the world today.
Good with math.
The Bible says Solomon's wisdom excelled that. His wisdom excelled theirs, yo. Theirs and the wisdom of Egypt. Jump down to verse 34.
Verse 34. And there came of all people to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all kings of the earth, which had heard of his wisdom.
All people came to hear of Solomon's wisdom. Yo, give me that in Wisdom of Solomon 7. Wisdom of Solomon 7 and 17 about what Solomon said about himself. Let me get that real quick.
Book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 7, verse 17.
Read.
We have given thee certain knowledge of the things that are.
This is Solomon talking about himself. He said the Lord gave him certain knowledge of the things that are. Read.
Namely, to know how the world was made.
Solomon knew how the world was made, Joe. See, we know how the world was made, but we just know let there be light and there was light. But Solomon understood how God created that light. What he did to create that light. Solomon understood that. He understood how the world was made. Read.
And the operation of the elements.
He understood the operations of the elements.
The beginning, ending, and the midst of time.
Solomon saw the beginning of times, the ending of times, the midst of times. He saw all of that. He knew it. Read.
The alterations of the turning of the sun.
He knew the alterations of the turning of the sun. Today, you think that it's the earth that has alterations and turnings. But Solomon said he knew about the sun's alterations and turnings. That means the sun revolves and rotates. And he understood that. Keep reading.
And the change of seasons.
He understood the change of seasons. Why they change. Read.
The circuit of
The
years.
circuits of years.
And the position of stars.
He understood the positions of the stars, yo. Read. What would that be? Astronomy, right? Mm-hmm. Astrology and all that, read.
The natures of living creatures.
He understood the natures of living creatures. White people trying to find out the natures of living creatures today.
Yeah, put it on Nature Channel.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out the natures of living creatures today. That's why they take little cameras and stuff them down into ant holes to try to observe how the ants are moving in these little ant holes, right? Because they're trying to understand the natures of living creatures, right?
And the theories of wild beasts.
They're trying to understand the theories of wild beasts. Solomon already understood that, read.
The violence of winds.
He understood tornadoes, hurricanes, typhoons. He understood the violence of winds.
And the reasonings of men.
He understood why men did the things that they did. He understood why women do the things that they do. He understood the reasonings of men. You know what that's called today? Sociology. Psychology. That's what that's called today. That's psychology. Solomon understood psychology, or sociology, I should say.
Intuition.
Sociology. Solomon understood psychology and sociology. Keep going.
The diversities of plants.
He understood the diversities of plants.
And the virtues of roots.
And the virtues of roots. Keep going.
And all such things as are either secret or manifest, them I know.
He said, I know all these things. See, Solomon was a wise man, yo. He was the wisest man to walk the earth outside of Jesus Christ, Joe. Real talk. Solomon was the wisest man to walk the earth outside of Christ. Let's go back to Sirach 47. Sirach chapter 47, and let's read verse 18 now.
Sirach chapter 47, verse 18. By the name of the Lord God, which is called the Lord God of Israel.
Read.
Thou didst gather gold as 10.
Solomon gathered gold like 10. Read.
And didst multiply silver as lead.
And he multiplied silver like lead. He was excessively rich. Extremely rich. Richer than everybody else. Gold was like 10 for him. Silver was like lead for him. That's unbelievable, yo. Keep going.
And thou didst bow thy loins unto women.
But he bowed his loins unto women, yo. See, Solomon was the type of dude that thought with the second head. Real talk. He bowed his loins unto women. Read.
And by thy body thou was brought into subjection.
And by his body he was brought into subjection. Read.
Thou didst stain thy honor.
He stained his honor.
And pollute thy seed.
And he polluted his seed. Read.
So that thou broughtest wrath upon thy children, and was grieved for thy father.
Hey, get that real quick about Solomon in 1 Kings 11. About him with the strange horse. Get that real quick.
Look at 1 Kings chapter 11, verse 1. But King Solomon loved many strange women.
See, King Solomon, he stained his honor. Why? Because of these strange women. King Solomon loved many strange women. Read.
Together with the daughters of Pharaoh.
The daughters of Pharaoh, those would be Egyptian women.
Women of the Moabites.
Chinese women.
Ammonites.
Japanese women.
Edomites.
White women.
Zidonians.
African women.
And Hittites.
More African women, yo. More African women. What else?
Of the nations concerning which the Lord said unto the children of Israel, Ye shall not go in to them, neither shall they come in unto you. For surely they will turn away your heart after their gods. Solomon cleaved unto these.
Surely they will turn away your hearts after their gods. Guess what? That happened to Solomon too. Even as great as Solomon was, he had that enlarged heart. Still, those women turned his heart away from God. They caused him to sin. Hold this, we'll come back here. Give me that Nehemiah 13. Nehemiah chapter 13. Start at verse, 24? 23?
Oh, yeah.
No, you know what? Just get straight to the point. 26, 27. They outlandish women caused Solomon to sin.
The book of Nehemiah chapter 13 and verse 26.
Read.
Did not Solomon, king of Israel, sin by these things?
Did not Solomon, the king of Israel, sin by these things? Read.
Yet among many nations was there no king like him,
There was no king like Solomon. Read.
who was beloved of his God.
He was beloved of God. Read.
And God made him king over all Israel.
God made him king over all of Israel. Read.
Nevertheless,
Nonetheless,
even him
King Solomon, read,
did outlandish women
strange women, read,
cause to sin.
caused to sin. They turned his heart from the Maker, from the Lord, Joe. And you know what happened? Solomon began to build up idols for these strange women, high places for these strange women to worship their gods. Go back to 1 Kings 11, and let's read that real quick. 1 Kings chapter 11, and I want verse... let's start at verse 4.
Book of 1 Kings chapter 11 verse 4. But it came to pass when Solomon was old,
It came to pass when Solomon was an old man, read.
that his wives turned away his heart after other gods.
His wives turned away his heart after other gods, after their gods, the gods of their people. Read.
And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, and was the heart of David his father.
His heart wasn't perfect like his father David's heart was perfect. Read.
But Solomon went after Ashtaroth,
He went after Ashtaroth,
the goddess of the Zidonians,
the goddess of the Zidonians, read.
and after Milcom,
And after Milcom,
the abomination of the Ammonites.
the idol of the Ammonites, read.
And Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord.
Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. Read.
And went not fully after the Lord, as did David his father.
He didn't follow fully after the Lord like his father did. Read.
And then did Solomon build in high place for Chemosh,
He built in high place for Shamash. Read.
the abomination of Moab,
The idol of the Chinese. Read.
in the hill that is before Jerusalem. And for Molech,
And for Molech,
the abomination of the children of Ammon.
the idol of the children of Ammon. So when Solomon was old, his heart was turned away from his God to the God of those outlandish women, those strange women that he married, Joe. That he married. And because of that, he stained his honor, yo. Go back to Sirach chapter 47. He stained his honor because of that. Sirach chapter 47 and 20.
Sirach chapter 47 and verse 20. Thou didst stain thy honor.
See, he stained his honor because of the dealings he had with these outlandish women, these strange women, these heathen women. Because of that, he stained his honor, read.
And pollute thy seed.
And he polluted his seed, read.
So that thou broughtest wrath upon thy children, and was grieved for thy folly.
And because of that, he brought wrath upon his children. And he was grieved at the end of his life because of his folly. At the end of his life, he was grieved because of that thing. Read.
So the kingdom was divided.
Because of that, the kingdom was divided. It was divided from one kingdom into two kingdoms. Read.
And out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious kingdom.
And out of Ephraim came a rebellious kingdom. Read.
But the Lord will never leave off his mercy, neither shall any of his works perish. Neither will he abolish the posterity of his elect.
Read.
And the seed of him that loveth him he will not take away. Wherefore he gave a remnant unto Jacob.
Wherefore he gave a remnant unto Jacob.
And out of him a root unto David.
And out of him he gave a root unto David. Read.
Thus rested Solomon with his fathers, and of his seed he left behind him a Rehoboam.
So Solomon died. He rested with his fathers. Matter of fact, hey, get that in 1 Kings 11. I think it's the last two verses about how long Solomon reigned real quick.
The book of 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 41.
Read.
And the rest of the acts of Solomon, and all that he did, and his wisdom, are they not written in the book of the acts of Solomon?
Read.
And the time that Solomon reigned in Jerusalem
Read.
over all Israel
was 40 years.
Was
40 years. So Solomon reigned in Jerusalem, the capital of Judah, 40 years over Israel, and then he died. Finish the verse.
And Solomon slept with his fathers, and was buried in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead.
And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. And the Bible tells you Rehoboam was a foolish young man. He was a stupid young man. That's what the Bible says about Rehoboam. Let's prove that. Go back to the book of Sirach, chapter 47 and verse 23.
But Sirach chapter 47, verse 23. Thus rested Solomon with his fathers, and of his seed he left behind him Rehoboam, even the foolishness of the people.
Even the foolishness of the people, yo. Rehoboam was a fool, yo. Read.
And one that had no understanding.
And Rehoboam had no understanding. Read.
Who turned away the people through his counsel.
Rehoboam turned away the people through his counsel. Because of his counsel, the house of Israel rebelled against the house of Judah. Read.
There was also Jeroboam, the son of Nebat.
But at the same time, you had Jeroboam, the son of Nebat. Read.
Who caused Israel to sin.
He caused Israel, the northern kingdom, to sin. Read.
And showed Ephraim the way of sin.
And showed Ephraim the way of sin. Read.
Verse 24. And their sins were multiplied exceedingly.
And their sins were multiplied exceedingly. Talk about the sins of Judah and the sins of Ephraim. Jeroboam and Rehoboam. Read.
That they were driven out of the land.
Read.
For they sought out all wickedness till the vengeance came upon them.
So their sins were multiplied exceedingly until they were driven out of the land. Until the northern kingdom was driven out of the land by the Assyrians. And until the southern kingdom, Judah, was driven out of the land by the Babylonians, yo. By the Babylonians. Now, let's go from there. What do I want to talk about? Let's talk about Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Give me 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 42.
Book of 1 Kings.
Oh, we read that already.
Yeah.
Give me 1 Kings 12 and 19.
Book of 1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 19.
Read.
So Israel rebelled against the house of David unto this day. And it came to pass, when all Israel heard that Jeroboam was come again,
Read.
that they sent and called him unto the congregation.
They sent and called Jeroboam unto the congregation. Read.
And made him king.
And made him what?
And made him king.
And made him king. Read.
Over all Israel.
And made him king over all Israel.
There was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only.
And there was none that followed the house of David, but the tribe of Judah only. What verse was that?
That was verse 20.
That was verse 20. All praises. Let's go to 1 Kings 12 and 25.
1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem and Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel.
Matter of fact, do I want to start there first? Let me see here. We just read 1 Kings chapter 12. That was 25. Read 25 again. I do want to read it. Read it again.
Verse 25. Then Jeroboam built Shechem and Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel.
And went out from thence and built Penuel. Keep reading.
And Jeroboam said in his heart.
You know what? Stop right there. I'm not going to read that yet. Let's go from there. Give me 1 Kings 14 and 30. Let's go there. 1 Kings and 14 and 30.
1 Kings chapter 14 verse 30.
Uh-huh.
And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days.
And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their days. So these two were at war with each other. Is that it?
No.
Keep going.
And was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And his mother's name was Naamah.
Let's talk about Rehoboam.
And Ammonitis.
And Ammonitis. Ammonitis meaning she's a Japanese woman. Remember, Solomon took strange women. He had Ammonite women. One of those Ammonite women, which was what Naamah said? Naamah. She was Solomon's baby mama. She gave birth to Rehoboam. Finish the verse.
And Abijam, his son, reigned in his stead.
All praises. Hey, give me 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 15. So it said there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all their lives, meaning continually these two were at war. Read this real quick.
2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 15.
Read.
Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet?
Are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet? Read.
And of Iddu the seer?
And of Iddu the seer? Read.
Concerning genealogy?
Concerning genealogies? Read.
And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually.
And there was wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually, yo. They were at war with each other their whole life. And when you read about Shemaiah and Iddu, the prophets, these were two of the prophets that were alive in the time of Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Hey, you give me the one about Shem in 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 2, and you're going to give me 2 Chronicles 9. Give me that real quick.
Book of 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 2.
This is to show you that the prophet Shemaiah was in the time of Rehoboam. Read this.
But the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, the man of God, saying,
Saying what?
Speak unto Rehoboam,
Speak unto Rehoboam, read.
the son of Solomon,
Uh-huh.
king of Judah,
King of Judah, read.
and to all Israel and Judea,
And Judah.
Salakia, and Benjamin, saying,
So Shemaiah was the prophet in the time of Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And it's the same thing with Edu. 9 and 29.
The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 29.
Read.
Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the books of Nathan the prophet?
Are they not written in the books of Nathan? Read.
And in the prophecy of Ahijah,
In the prophecies of Ahijah? Read.
the Shulonite.
The Shilonite. Ahijah was also around in the time of Rehoboam and Jeroboam as well. Keep going.
And in the visions of Iddu,
Uh-huh.
the seer, against Jeroboam the son of Nebat.
Against Jeroboam the son of Nebat. See, he lived in the time of Jeroboam the son of Nebat. He was the seer at that time. One of the seers at that time, meaning he was one of the prophets. Because the seers were the prophets. Give me that 1 Samuel 9. 1 Samuel 9 and 9 about that real quick. The seers were the prophets. Read that.
1 Samuel chapter 9 and verse 9.
Uh-huh.
Before a time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, thus he spake, Come, and let us go to the seer.
Come, let us go to the seer. Read.
For he that is now called a prophet
For he that is now called a prophet. Read.
was before time called a seer.
The seers were the prophets. The prophets were or are the seers, yo. They are the seers. Give me the book of 2 Chronicles chapter 11 or 2 Chronicles chapter 13 and verse 6. Talking about Rehoboam. When Rehoboam was young, he was very soft. He was a soft guy. Give me 2 Chronicles 13 and 6.
2 Chronicles chapter 13 verse 6.
Read.
Yet Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the servant of Solomon, the son of David, is risen up and have rebelled against his Lord. Verse 7. And there are gathered unto him vain men, the children of Belial, and have strengthened themselves against Rehoboam.
They strengthened themselves against Rehoboam. Read.
The son of Solomon.
The son of Solomon. Read.
When Rehoboam was young and tenderhearted.
And what?
And tenderhearted.
And tenderhearted. Read.
And could not withstand them.
See, when Rehoboam was young, he was a tender-hearted brother. A tender-hearted young man. Meaning he was soft-hearted. He was a little sensitive, yo. When he was younger. But when he got older, he got stronger, yo. He got stronger. The people of Israel, the men that followed him, they strengthened him and made him stronger. Give me chapter 11 and verse 1.
Book of 2 Chronicles chapter 11 and verse 1.
Read.
And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he gathered of the house of Judah and Benjamin 180,000 chosen men, which were warriors.
Read.
To fight against Israel.
To fight against Israel.
That he might bring the kingdom against to Rehoboam.
That he might bring again the kingdom to Rehoboam. Jump down to verse 7.
Verse 7.
17, excuse me.
Verse 17, Salaki. So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah.
They what?
So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah.
They strengthened the kingdom of Judah. Read.
And made Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, strong.
And they made Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, strong. Read.
3 years.
3 years. Read.
For 3 years they walked in the way of David and Solomon.
For 3 years they walked in the way of David and Solomon. So they were a little confused for 3 years. They were a little confused for 3 years. They walked in the ways of David and Solomon. Hey, let's go from there. Give me chapter 13 and 6. Is that what I want? 13 and 6. I think we just read that. Yep. So I don't want 13 and 6. Give me chapter 12. Didn't we just read that too?
Yeah, we got 2 Chronicles chapter 12, 15, 16.
All right. What do I want here? Let's read chapter 12. So it said that. Oh, hold on. I'm missing something. I'll be remiss. I gotta look real quick. Chapter 13 or is it chapter 12 that I want? I want chapter 12. Give me chapter 12 real quick. In verse 13.
Book of 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 13.
Still talking about how Rehoboam strengthened himself as he got older. Read.
So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem and reigned.
And ruled. Read.
For Rehoboam was 140 years old when he began to reign.
He was 41 years old when he was king. Read.
And he reigned 17 years in
He
Jerusalem.
reigned for 17 years in Jerusalem.
The city which the Lord had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. To put his name there.
Read.
And his mother's name was Naamah and Ammonitis.
Once again, his mother's name was Naamah and Ammonitis. Keep reading.
And he did evil because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord.
So Rehoboam did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not prepare his heart to seek the Lord. Rehoboam forsook the law of God. Go to chapter 12 and 1.
The book of 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 1.
Read.
And it came to pass when Rehoboam had established the kingdom and had strengthened himself, he forsook the law.
He did what?
He forsook the law of the Lord and all Israel with him.
He forsook the law of the Lord and all Israel with him, yo. And because he did that, Read the next verse.
Verse 2. And it came to pass that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam,
Read.
Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem.
So because of that, Shishak, the king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem. Read.
Because they had transgressed against the Lord.
And that's why. It's because they were in transgression against the Lord. Read.
With 1,200 chariots.
He brought up 1,200 chariots.
And 70,000 horsemen.
And 70,000 horsemen. Read.
And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt.
And the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt. Read.
The Lumbims and the
Sakims.
It's the Sakims and the Ethiopians.
And the Ethiopians. Read.
And he took the fenced cities which pertain to Judah and came to Jerusalem.
Hey, get the one, we're going to come back here, but get the one in 1 Kings 13. 1 Kings 13, I think it is. Let me get there real quick. 1 Kings 13. No. 1 Kings 14 and verse 25. That's what I want.
1 Kings chapter 14, verse 25. And it came to pass in the 5th year of King Rehoboam that Shishak, king of Egypt, came up against Jerusalem.
So, why? Because of their transgression. But keep going.
And he took away the treasures of the house of the Lord.
He robbed the house of the Lord and took away the treasures. Read.
And the treasures of the king's house.
And he robbed the king's house and took away his treasures. Read.
He even took away all.
He took away all. Read.
And he took away all the shields of gold which Solomon had made.
And he took away all the shields of gold which Solomon had made. Why? Because of the transgressions. Let's go back to where we at? We was in Second Chronicles. What was it 12?
Yeah, 12. We just read 1
For some reason, I flipped right past that page. Let's go back. Let's read Second Chronicles 12 again, and I want to read verse
5.
7.
All right. It was 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 7. And when the Lord saw that they humbled themselves, the word of the Lord came to Shemaiah, saying, they have humbled themselves.
Talking about Rehoboam and Judah. They humbled themselves. Read.
Therefore, I will not destroy them.
He said, so the Lord said, I'm not going to completely destroy you. Read.
But I will grant them some deliverance.
But I'll give you some deliverance. Read.
And my wrath shall not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak.
He said, my wrath will not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Read.
Nevertheless, they shall be his servants.
He said, nevertheless, though, you're going to serve the king of Egypt. You're going to serve Shishak. Read.
That they may know my service.
That you may know the service of God. Read.
And the service of the kingdoms of the country.
In the service of the kingdoms of the country. So because of Rehoboam's transgressions, his sins, and the transgressions of Judah, their sins, we became servants to Shishak, the king of Egypt. The king of Egypt. Now, I know I don't have too much more time left, so I do want to cover Jeroboam before we close out, yo. Give me the book of 2 Kings chapter, I just read chapter 12 and verse 1. Give me 2 Kings 17 and 21.
2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 21. For he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king.
Read.
And Jeroboam drave Israel from following the Lord.
And Jeroboam did what?
Drave Israel from following the Lord.
Read.
And made them sin a great sin.
And made them sin a great sin. I know I'm missing something, yo. I know I'm missing something. What verse was that?
That was verse 21.
That was verse 21. So he made Israel sin a great sin. Remember, Jeroboam, he built those two idols. Those idols that they put in Dan and Bethel. And that was a major stumbling block for the children of Israel. Real talk. Give me 1 Kings chapter 12. Let's start at verse 25. 1 Kings 12 and verse 25, and we'll get ready to end it here. We'll end it with their deaths. Go ahead.
1 Kings chapter 12 and verse 25.
Read.
Then Jeroboam built Shechem and Mount Ephraim, and dwelt therein, and went out from thence and built Penuel.
Read.
And Jeroboam said in his heart, now shall the kingdom return to the house of David.
So Jeroboam, he thought within himself that the kingdom of Israel would return to the house of David, to Judah. Read.
If this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord at Jerusalem,
Read.
then shall the heart of this people turn again unto their Lord, even unto Rehoboam king of Judah.
Read.
And they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam king of Judah.
He thought the people would kill him. Read.
Whereupon the king took counsel and made 2 calves of gold.
He took counsel and made 2 calves of gold, 2 idols of gold. Read.
And said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem.
And he said to the people, it's too much to go up to Jerusalem. It's too far. It's too much of a burden. Read.
Behold, thy God,
These are your gods. These idols of gold. These golden calves. These are your gods. Read.
O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt.
Read.
And he set the one in
He
Bethel,
put one in Bethel.
and the other put he in Dan.
The other one he put in Dan. Read.
And this thing became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even unto Dan.
Uh-huh.
And he made an house of high places, and made priests of the lowest of the people, which were not of the sons of Levi.
So he made priests of the lowest of people, which were not of the sons of Levi. He actually ended up kicking all the Levites out. This is how the Levites ended up with Judah. This is how the southern kingdom became Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Because Jeroboam kicked the Levites out of their suburbs that they had in Ephraim. Give me that real quick. Chronicles. 2 Chronicles 11 and 14.
2 Chronicles chapter 11, verse 14. For the Levites left their suburbs and their possession, and came to Judah
Why?
and Jerusalem.
Why?
For Jeroboam and his sons had cast them off from executing the priest office unto the Lord.
See, Jeroboam and his sons cast the Levites off from executing the priest office. He kicked them out of the lands of Israel, out of the lands of Ephraim. Read.
Verse 15. And he ordained him priests for the high places,
And he ordained his own priest for his own high places, which he built. Read.
and for the devils,
And for the devils. Read.
and for the calves which he had made.
And for the calves which he had made. He said, and for the devils, meaning those deceiving spirits. And for those calves, those idols. Read.
And after them, out of all the tribes of Israel, such as set their hearts to seek the Lord God of Israel, came to Jerusalem to sacrifice unto the Lord God of their fathers.
But those that set their heart to follow God, they left and went into Judah to follow and sacrifice after God. Now we're about to end this thing because I don't want to go too far over. Let's talk about the deaths of Rehoboam and Jeroboam real quick. Give me the book of 1 Kings 14:31.
1 Kings chapter 14 and verse 31. And Rehoboam slept with his fathers, and was buried with his fathers in the city of David.
In the city of David.
And his mother's name was Naamah, an Ammonitess. And Abijam his son reigned in his stead.
And Abijam his son reigned in his stead, Joe. He began to rule in the time of Jeroboam. Jeroboam was still alive when Abijam became king. Give me that real quick in chapter 15 and 1.
The book of 1 Kings chapter 15 verse 1. Now in the 18th year of King Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, reigned Abijam over Judah.
He reigned over Judah. Read.
Verse 2. 3 years reigned he in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Absalom,
Read.
of Abishalom. And he walked in all the sins of his father.
And he walked in all the sins of his father, yo. He walked in all the sins of Rehoboam. Read.
Which he had done before him. And his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father. Nevertheless, for David's sake did the Lord his God give him a lamp in Jerusalem, to set up his son after him, and to establish Jerusalem.
Read verse 6. We're going to end here.
Verse 6. And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of his life.
All the days of his life. All the days of his life is talking about, who is it talking about? Where's the name? Abijam. It's talking about Abijam. All the days of Abijam's life, he was at war with the house of Jeroboam. Read.
Verse 7. Now the rest of the acts of Abijam, and all that he did, were they not written in the book of the chronicles of the kings of Judah? And there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. And Abijam slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David. And Asa his son reigned in his stead.
And Asa his son reigned in his stead. So we're going to end it right here. When we come back, Lord's willing, for this part 2, we're going to deal with the death of Jeroboam, because we didn't get to touch that yet. I ain't know the class was going this long. We're going to deal with the death of Jeroboam. We're going to go into Asa, and we're going to continue this brief history of the kings. Now, before I close this thing out, you got anything you want to add?
Nah, good class.
Anybody got anything they want to add? Hey, well, we're going to go ahead and end this thing in the same way that we began this thing, and that's by giving all praises and all glory and all honor to the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Right.
Through his only begotten Son, Jesus the Christ. Secondly, we're going to give double honors to our elders again. Why? Because they rule well. They're counted worthy of double honors. So they get their double honors. Now, lastly, I want to say to all of my brothers, farewell. Shabbat shalom, man. My name is Priest Lithiel Ben Israel.
And my name is Priest Ron Ben Israel. And Hopefully you found the class edifying. And if you like the content, you like to check out more of our content, check out our pages on our social media accounts, Facebook and as well on Instagram under Holy Nation of Israel. As well, you can find us on YouTube under Straight Gate of Israel. And you can find me on Facebook as well on Instagram under Ron Ben Israel. But when it comes to Instagram, all lowercase in the two names and an underscore between the two.
You'll find me on IG, Lithiel617, Facebook, Lithiel Ben Israel.
And when it comes to our social media platform, feel free to like, share, comment, subscribe, follow, hit the bell, stay updated, because we drop content mostly every day.
Yep.
And with that,
Hey, with that, man, we're going to say shalom. Shalom.